something like 18 million sales jobs in this country. And roughly 10 million of those are going to disappear over the next 5 years. That's a bit of a downer to start a session. The good news is the jobs that remain are going to be very different, much more significant, much higher paid, and let's hope that let's hope we're in the right group.
Now, I'm going to try to keep us all awake and alive by making my presentation very interactive. I'm going to put on the screen things called station breaks. And whenever you see a station break, I'm going to invite you to turn to one or two people next to you, in front of you, behind you, and discuss the topic that's on the screen. And then I'll talk more about it myself. Because I don't know how you learn. I can't learn by listening anymore. Maybe I'm just getting old or something. But for me, I learn by arguing the thing myself, talking about it, thinking about it. And that's what I'm going to invite you to do. So there will be a number of station breaks. And in fact, we should practice one right now. Here's the first one. And if you had looked at this question just a few years ago, you could very easily have said, oh shit, this is going to be a really long morning. Because could you possibly imagine a dumber question than what's the purpose of a sales force? But that's not such a dumb question anymore. I ran a session for CEOs of public companies who are interested in sales and marketing issues. A couple of years ago, they were asking me questions like, how do we compensate technical and support people who are playing a role in the sale? Or, how do we manage big global accounts and cut that with our local geographies? Questions like these are about how do we do a little bit better at what we're doing already? The last one I ran, the very first question was, do I need a sales force at all? That's a more serious question. And that's all about, well, what is the purpose of a sales force? So I'm just going to invite you to talk to some people around you about just that topic. What is the purpose of a sales force? And then I'll discuss it with you. So let's try a station break. Okay. I heard a number of answers from you. Most of them sounded pretty reasonable. The answer, the purpose of a sales force is to make sales is not necessarily the deepest answer you could have. But hey, let's have a look at typically how people answer this question. It's to make sure the customer's got the right information about your products at the right time in order to influence a purchasing decision. Okay, let's look at another one. Convinces customers to buy from you by showing that you're better in some way. Differentiates you. Okay? It shows that you've got something worthwhile that meets customer needs. I think that's reasonable. I like this one. It's a translator. It puts stuff into the customer's language. And that sort of makes sense. Last one here. The purpose of the sales force is to communicate to customers the value of your offerings. Okay? That again is a reasonable statement. I'm going to be suggesting to you that all of those 5 statements I showed on the screen have something in common. And they're probably rather like some of the things you were saying. Every one of those 5 is about the idea that the role of the sales force is to communicate value, to show the customers that we have this mousetrap and this mousetrap is better. I'm also going to be suggesting to you that's yesterday's purpose of a sales force. If all that you do is you communicate to customers how great your products and services are, you're probably not going to cut it. In fact, my co-author and I did a lot of research into the probable future numbers of people in business-to-business sales. Today, there's about 19 million people employed in the United States in business-to-business selling. We think that's going to drop to about 10 million within the next 5 years. And the reason why it's going to drop to 10 million is an awful lot of people will never get away from the idea that selling is about communicating to customers that you have a great product or service. Selling is actually much more than that, and will be more than that in the future, and I want to talk about it. Because what you're talking about here is how do we add more than the mousetrap already has? What is it that we do when we sell that adds something that the customer values, which will tip the sale in our favor? Where if we can do it, and a competitor can't do it as well as us, even if they could copy our products and services, we would be the ones who get the business. And that's really worth thinking about. In fact, it's so important that one of the things I'll do is when I'm working with an organization to try and help move sales forward, and one of the first things I'll do is I'll make sure that in everyone's mind is the question, before I go out on a major call, is the customer going to write me a check for the call I'm just about to make? What can I do differently? Which would have that customer saying, hey, that was valuable. Because that's our job nowadays. Our job is value creation. If we don't create value, if all we are is a talking brochure, we ain't going to get there. And you can see this very clearly when you do studies of customers. I'm one of these guru guys. So I've been out on sales calls, and I love to talk. And I'm there, and I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about that. And afterwards I stop, and I think, hold on. What problem did I solve for this customer? How did I create value? Would the customer really have written a check for the call? I don't think so. I got carried away. And you can't do that in selling anymore. You've always got to be asking, how am I creating customer value? And the final piece of advice is the way you do it is by understanding your customers more deeply than ever before. That's why questioning skills are terribly important. The successful people in this marketplace have two kinds of skills. They're great at questioning and getting down to what's really happening in business terms with the customer. The second skill they have is the creativity of coming up with a solution. You're problem solvers. And the capacity to customize a solution for a customer is enormously important. If you can get a sticky solution, if you can get something that really answers the problem, and do it at an economic cost, that's the trick. And you've got to see your products and services as these are the tools that enable us to create customer value. Your job as a salesperson in the future is, I am a value creation manager. I'm creating value for this customer using our products and services, using the whole array of things that the organization can provide. I am marshalling these things to create customer value. That's the job of the salesperson.